Thank you very much. That's a very generous reception for someone you've never heard of. Hello. My name is Christopher J. Yates, or as you'll be referring to me in a few hours, I imagine, the guy who went on 3 spots before Michael Wolff. What was his name? Anyway, I've been quite nervous about doing this for a while, and because of that, I decided to get proactive and find some information about public speaking. So I looked stuff up, and I found something, this is 100% true, from former UK Prime Minister David Cameron. And something former UK Prime Minister David Cameron does when he gives important speeches is he uses something called the full bladder technique. This is true. He thinks that by speaking with a full bladder, it gives him a kind of laser-guided focus. Holding it in just does it for him. So that sounded pretty easy to me, a fairly easy thing to follow through on. So just before I came on stage, I drank 17 pints of the strongest European lager I could find. So I think tonight's going to go very well. Okay, the theme of tonight is Darkness Falls. As you heard, I just had my second novel published. It's called Gristmill Road. Thank you. So, in the opening chapter of Gristmill Road, which is quite a violent opening chapter, a 14-year-old boy ties a 13-year-old girl to a tree. And then he proceeds to shoot that girl with a Red Ryder BB gun 37 times. And unfortunately, the final shot hits her in the eye. Now, admittedly, this is a very, very dark opening to a novel. What kind of human being would write such a dark opening? Rewind to my first novel, it was called Black Chalk. So that's actually even a dark title for a novel. The basic idea in Black Chalk is it's about 6 students at Oxford University. They devise a game they want to play. It's a game of psychological dares. The idea being to try and work out how they can break each other psychologically. So for example, I'll give you one example. The dare might be that someone has to sing in public. And for some people, singing in public might be easy. You might be a performer, or even if you have a terrible voice, as we've seen from shows like The X Factor, you still might want to get up there and sing your little heart out. So that's an example of a dare in the earlier part of the book. However, the dares get harder and harder and harder as the friends work out how they can psychologically break each other. Now, admittedly, this is a dark idea for a novel. So, when the reviews came out, pretty much every review called it a dark novel. However, some reviewers went even further, and they said whoever has written this novel must be a dark human soul. So I kept reading this over and over, dark human soul, dark human being. And I was thinking, this doesn't quite make sense to me. I don't think of myself as a dark soul, especially. I read another review, dark soul. I turned to my wife. Honey, do you think I'm dark? And she responded to me with a horrified look on her face. Oh, you're dark. You're really, really dark. So that's an interesting idea to me. My wife, the person who knows me best, thinks I'm dark. I think I'm not dark. Which one of these is true? So I have 3 stories from my youth, which might help us get to the root of this. Okay. Story number 1. I'm 10 years old. My next door neighbor is 12 years old. He's taller than me, he's wiser than me, and he's about 10 years tougher than me. One day the 2 of us decide to go off into the woods because we want to build a spear. Because it's the 80s, and that's what you did. You went off into the woods and built spears. So we take a bamboo cane that we've stolen from a neighbor's yard, and we take a big rusty nail that we've found on some waste ground, and we take some string. And we spend a couple of hours building this spear together. We tie the nail to the bamboo cane with the string. We tie it as tight as we can. We find some stones to weight the cane because we want it to fly just right. Then after a couple of hours, we've built the spear. My neighbor has hold of it, and he looks at me and he says, "Run." And I froze. I don't think I even understood the meaning of the word run in that moment. So he looked at me a bit closer. Run! And I ran. I ran as fast as I could. However, I knew my neighbor had thrown the spear at me because I could hear the sound it made in the air, a kind of whistling sound coming closer and closer towards me, and then thunk, it hits me in the back of the leg. So I slow down. I turn around, there's a spear in the back of my leg. So I tear the spear out of the back of my leg, and then what I probably should have done next, what would have been a reasonable response, would have been to throw the spear straight back at my neighbor. But that's not what I did. I picked up the spear, and I took it back to him. He was beaming proudly at how the spear had thrown, and then I handed it back to him like it was some kind of dog returning a stick to its master. So what's the lesson I learned from this? Okay, lesson, there is malice in the world. Next lesson, there is weakness in the world. And there is passivity in the world. Now, is that dark or is that just the truth? Okay, I'll move on to story number 2. I'm 13 years old. It seemed to me for a while that my dad has been going mad. My mother bought a microwave oven against his wishes, and my dad has decided that the microwave oven is poisoning us all. My parents get into huge arguments about this. My dad, it's poisoning us, it's poisoning us. My mum, it's not, you're being ridiculous. One day we're taking a family trip. We're driving to a golf tournament, which is pretty dark. We're driving to this golf tournament. My parents are up front, my sister and I are in the back. The argument about the microwave begins again. It's poisoning us, it's not. It's poisoning us, it's not. And my dad snaps, and he yells, if the microwave is going to kill us all anyway, I may as well do it now. And he stamps on the gas, and he drives towards a bus as fast as he can, and my sister and I are in the back of the car screaming, and just before we hit the bus, he pulls out. And then he turns the car around, and he drives us home. And when we get home, he dashes out of the car, and he cuts the plug off the microwave oven. Lesson. If there's any way you can ever humanly get out of a golf tournament, take it. Death is better than golf. Just... Okay. Lesson. You could be killed by the person who's supposed to love you the most. And is that dark or is that the truth? Well, I looked up some statistics, and I managed to find that the US Justice Department had investigated this in the year 2002. In the year 2002, out of every single homicide in the States, 22% of homicides were committed by family members. Okay, story number 3. I'm 19 years old. I'm a student. My best friend invites me on a family vacation in the south of France. Her mother is dating an Austrian count who used to be a rally driver. The house is at the top of a mountain, and you have to go up a windy mountain road to get to it. One night, the Austrian count decides to take us all to dinner in Saint-Tropez. This is only the second time I've ever been abroad in my life. It's incredible. I eat steak for the first time in my life. We drink wine, we laugh, we chat. We're in Saint-Tropez. We laugh at the rich people on their yachts. We laugh at the rich people promenading around. It was the best day of my life. And then it comes time to go home. And the Austrian count, the former rally driver, drives us up the mountain road. And maybe it was the wine. I don't know. Maybe he takes the bend too fast, or maybe he takes it too slow. But at one point we're going up the mountain, and the next moment we're sliding back down the mountain. And we slide, and we slide, and finally we come to a halt, and the car does this. It's moving like a seesaw. I'm on the near side. I get out of the car. I hold up the back of the car as best I can. Everyone climbs out of the car. So we're okay. My friend and I, walk back up the mountain, and we smoke most of a packet of cigarettes together. Lesson: you can die on the best day of your life. Is that dark, or is that just true? Okay, so those are my 3 stories from my youth. It wasn't all bad, I promise. Some of it was quite good. And by the way, I get on fine with my dad now. We get on really well. He actually came to New York recently, although he came in a boat because he's scared of airplanes. I mean, if you're scared of microwave ovens, then airplanes are genuinely terrifying. Okay, so, however, there is also light in the world. I do believe this. Going back to my novel, Gristmill Road, I think of it as being a tragedy with a happy ending. And going back to my wife, I told her this. Same look of horror on her face. What? That's your idea of a happy ending? What is wrong with you? So, okay, it ends in death. However, it also ends with the culmination of a love story. Death and love. So for me, those are the 2 goalposts of life. Death and love. And I can give you another story that illustrates this. My stepmother, Ruth, was diagnosed with tongue cancer. Very quickly, it became clear that she was going to die. And it did happen very quickly. However, shortly before she died, she wanted to make it clear to her family that she'd lived a very happy life. She loved my father, she loved her family, and therefore she didn't want anyone to be sad when she died. Now, for me, that's a really beautiful idea. When it comes to death and love, the idea that if you have loved, then life has been worthwhile. If you have loved, then the darkness doesn't really matter. And that doesn't have to be romantic love. That could be familial love. That could be passion for a cause or passion for a pastime. As long as you have loved, the darkness doesn't matter. So, in conclusion, yes, night follows day. However, also, the day follows the night. So darkness falls. Darkness inevitably falls. However, the sun also rises. Or, as the song goes, the sun will come out tomorrow. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.